Hello, this is Rock Paper Shotgun, and this weekend I had a lot of fun playing a game that has all three of those things. Rage 2 is a whole lot of rocks, the occasional bit of paper, and a truly masterful shotgun. And it's the shotgun that blasted a big grin across my face for the last 2 days, with a dual firing mode that offers you a choice of basic vaporization, or a secondary mode that condenses shot into a heavy-hitting slug, stripping armour from torsos, or sending both of them flying into the abyss. Activate your overdrive state and it amplifies every shot, turning it into a long-range meat grinder. If you've seen the end of 2008's Rambo, it's a lot like that, only without having to watch 90 terrible minutes of 2008's Rambo first. It's hardly a headline to write, id Software build a good shotgun, but I think they may have surpassed themselves here. That they hand you the weapon in the middle of a mutant nest full of the game's squishiest enemies shows they understand exactly how a toy like this should be deployed. The resulting mess made such an impression that the shotgun stayed in my hands for the next 10 hours of the game. But it also got me thinking about what strange game Rage 2 is. It's an adventure starring one of the most powerful gaming heroes in recent memory, and when you put us in the shoes of someone that powerful, the challenge becomes about building a fight that's big enough to put those powers to the test. The solution proposed by the combined brains of Avalanche and id Software is to create a huge open world and fill it with hundreds of doses of ferocious combat. But is this really the best showcase for the combat they've built? My bottom line problem with Rage 2 is that I'm not sure why Rage 2 is an open world game instead of a traditional corridor shooter. It gives you a map that's roughly 10 kilometers squared by my calculation, but where the only interesting things you can do are in a direct 10-meter radius, when things are near enough for you to do combat to them. It's not an empty world. One glance at my incomplete map shows enough map icons to give even a Ubisoft designer the cold sweats, but it's often an unnecessary map with very little of interest in the miles of empty ground that fill it out. And it's this weird dynamic I'll be breaking down in this video. Let's start with what the game gets right. As I said, I spent most of this weekend having a great time, and that's entirely due to your ability to create a horrible mess in a very short amount of time. Rage 2 has a lot in common with 2016's Doom reboot. It has that same speed and ferocity, all about sprinting around arenas, mantling scenery and pushing the offensive. In Doom, that was motivated by a need to kill enemies to regain health. Here you're driving up a combo meter that in turn feeds your overdrive. This is a heightened state where weapons hit harder and recuperate health. In both games, if you're hiding behind cover and taking cowardly pot shots, you're doing the hero a great disservice. Well, unless you're trying to fight these giant authority cannons on foot, in which case cowardice is both forgiven and encouraged. The difference is Rage 2 is comic book Doom, less about churning through demons in a fit of bloodlust, and more about the giddy anarchy of turning henchmen into paste. On top of weapons, you have Nantotrite technology, which are basically superpowers. They give you the double jump, dash and super sprint that empowers the basic combat loop, but they also let you force push people, or if they're weak enough, simply shatter them into a gore pile on the spot. They let you drop a vortex that yanks in anything not nailed down and then spits them out, or with an upgrade, lets them hang helplessly in the air, ready for that shotgun slug. Vortex sets them up, you knock them down. The pick of the bunch is Slam, which hurls you upwards and then turns you into a human meteor. Anyone underneath is going home in a bucket. The higher the point you launch from, the greater the damage, so you begin to double jump before dropping down. Once you kick off a fight, the world comes at you fast, so I like to use Slam as my big entrance. Trying to find a route so you drop on the biggest cluster of enemies possible is about as close as the game gets to stealth. And the real magic lies in stitching these moves into graceful killing sprees, using the propulsive energy of a vortex to fling Walker up and then slam down, only to warp to the last goon standing with a shatter strike. Or how about upgrading your barrier ability to kill enemies on contact, and then using the vortex to pull people through it, as if they were old builds going through a paper shredder. The more you upgrade powers, adding damage, range or quicker cooldown, the more outlandish the action gets. I'm a big fan of games that are unembarrassed to put stupid power in your hands, things like the rocket raining, building, bounding Crackdown, or Prototype, which is really underrated for its superpower combos, and Rage 2 scratches that itch in a big way. My one quibble in all this is a PC specific one. I actually find the mouse keyboard layout quite unfriendly when it comes to powers. Having to hold 2 keys to activate Nantotrite powers, control is the default, while trying to zip around with WASD is clumsier than I'd like. All this footage is captured with an Xbox pad, as it just gave me the control I wanted. Might not be a problem for more dexterous youngsters, but I thought it was worth flagging up. Weapons are no slouch either, and beautifully made across the board, from the multi-shot rattle of the Sidewinder pistol to plucking off heads while hovering mid-air with a Ranger assault rifle. One more malicious toy lets you fill enemies with rounds that ignite when you hit alternative fire, letting you prep scenes of destruction, or somehow kill and barbecue a tasty apocalypse buffalo in just one move. Yes, I will have mine well done. If every weapon is delivered with its meticulous eye for detail and gun feel, this isn't to say that Avalanche don't contribute their own style to the mix. The Grav Dart launcher basically crams Just Cause's tether tech into a gun barrel, letting you pepper enemies or explosive barrels with darts before pulling them towards whatever you aim the alt fire at. Making 2 things hurl towards each other was always Rico Rodriguez's most satisfying trick, but this betters it by letting you tag so many more targets with darts. Also, you don't have to aim the alt fire at anything in particular, so you can just pull people into the sky and watch their tiny ragdolling bodies vanish into the horizon. In a game that's mostly about ultra-violence in extreme close-up, there's something very zen about catapulting a thug to perish in the abyss. Aside from this, Avalanche's singed fingerprints are all over the juicy fireballs and the convenient piles of exploding barrels, but these elements are more about spectacle than delivering a physics playground. And that's not a criticism. One of my big problems with the Just Cause series is that it gives you experimental weapons and expects you to use them to find the fun in otherwise quite mundane shootouts. I'll direct you to Hamish Black's excellent video, linked in the description, on Just Cause 4's problems with chaos for more on that. Rage 2 doesn't tie your enjoyment of the game to your ability to imagine mad gadget applications. Outside of a couple of outlandish playthings, ejector seat for your car is a good one for rude interruptions. It focuses on getting the core punch of combat as satisfying as it can. It's almost like it has reined Avalanche in, but it's probably their best game since Just Cause 2, so the shift is welcomed. Let's talk about the wider world, the part of Rage 2 we might more commonly associate with Avalanche. Not that it has much in common with Just Cause. You see, rather than a massive world you learn to survive in, this wasteland is more like an artificial holding pen for hundreds of small bursts of combat. Action is served from a menu of set activities, 15 or so, each with its own objective, but generally summed up as go to place, kill everyone, interact with a prop. There are bandit bases where you just kill everyone to win, but there are roadblocks where you kill everyone and then raise a barrier, or petrol stations where you kill everyone and then blow up fuel tanks, or mutant nests where you kill everyone and shoot egg sacs, and that's fine. Like I said, killing people in fast bouts of combat is what Rage 2 does best. And the variety of activities is just enough to avoid the monotony that often infects these map-clearing games. The different enemy factions bring their own rhythms, from the traditional shooting galleries against the goon squad to the overwhelming rush of mutant breeding holes. Throw in authority sentry towers, meteor farming and fights against larger mutants, and there's enough here to give you a pick and mix of bloodletting. But the map is exactly that, a giant wall of sweetie containers. It has no interest in the sandbox possibilities of such a space. There's no stealthy approach or benefit to finding a back route or trying to attack from above. As tactical opportunities, each event may as well be sitting on a giant flat plane for the difference it makes. Okay, the odd location may be a bit more exposed, meaning you can use your turret on your car/Batmobile to eviscerate whatever faction is dumb enough to call it home, but that's really as open as the action gets. Just Cause is just as guilty of dotting a huge world with tiny points of interest, but at least the vehicles and terrain made you think about your angle of approach. Considering how much of the world is road, I'm surprised at how undercooked vehicles are in Rage 2. This part of the game plays like a simplified Mad Max. Your car gets you from A to B, can take part in races, and can chase after convoys. And that's sort of it. Convoys seem exciting the first time you encounter them, but you soon realise they follow a template. Shoot the smaller enemies, use your electromagnetic pulse on bigger cars, and then shoot the truck's energy cores when they pop out the side. The hardest part is collecting enough car upgrade parts to buy the electromagnetic pulse thing in the first place, but once you've got it, and maybe a shield upgrade, nothing will bother you on the road again. And the racing is just so flat. You boost and shunt to the front of the pack and then pray you don't accidentally clip a boulder and spiral out of control. As long as the collision gods are on your side, you'll pull ahead in seconds and then take a polite Sunday drive to the finish line. Thrilling it ain't. There's just so little life in between the life-taking. You'll see rival factions having a pop at each other, but the rewards for intervening are pretty much non-existent. Although it is quite good fun to watch from afar and place bets on whether a tiny mutant can tackle an authority dropship. I wish there were more variations on car combat. As it currently is, you see more of this travelling car salesman guy than anyone else. This is a guy trying to sell you upgrades for fights that you never actually encounter. I mean, it's a pretty stinking business model. Honestly, the best thing that happened in Rage 2 is when I finally unlocked the Icarus gyrocopter and could just zip between locations as the crow flies. It cuts travel time in half, lets you fill the map with icons quicker, and best demonstrates the visual scale of the place. You get it for working with Dr. Kvasir and levelling up his tech tree, so prioritise his missions early on.
This should be it. Where are you?
That actually reminds me of one thing I do like about the map, the fact that you can pursue the story in any order and quickly upgrade your hero to suit your playstyle. Plenty of games deliver vast land masses and then guide your progress with artificial difficulty spikes or arbitrary level requirements. The difficulty of Rage 2's activities does rise as you push out from Vinewood, but the story's three prongs can be tackled as you want. It's basically 3 loyalty quests that you have to complete in order to take on the big bad. Even better, your Nantotrite tech and weapons have to be found in arcs hidden around the map, and there's nothing stopping you from setting out to find them in the first few hours and making sure you have all the fun toys for the rest of the game. Compared to just about any game with a skill tree, and Rage 2 is remarkably generous with how it doles out the best stuff. It also made me chuckle that the deluxe edition comes with a progress boosting item, as the game really isn't stingy with the rate that you can upgrade weapons and skills. The system is a bit of a faff. You have to unlock levels with one currency and then buy specific perks with another item, but I had enough of both to speed me through the upgrade trees in the 13 hours it took me to finish. In fact, that's another point of contention. Rage 2 is pretty short for a game of this type. It took me 13 hours to see off the final boss, but that was with a decent amount of side activities crossed off the list, and lots of progress through the 3 loyalty trees. Strip it down to the core story and it's just 8 missions long. You could easily finish it in under 10 hours. Yes, that leaves you with at least another 10 or 20 hours of icons to clear from the map, but I personally struggle to find motivation once the credits have rolled. What are upgrades worth when you've killed the ultimate evil in the land? I've been popping back in for 20-minute blasts here and there and still enjoying running circles around the mutants, but I struggle to think of an open world game that finished so quickly. Well, apart from Rage 1. And that's what I meant when I said Rage 2 sometimes feels like it should be a more linear shooter. It's in such a hurry to get through its own world, it barely visits 2 of the 5 regions. Did all those poor artists toil on jungle assets in vain? There's not even a proper side quest system. Plenty of NPCs will add points of interest to the map, but there are also things you can just find by driving past them. Even weirder, some NPCs offer rewards for finishing these activities, but the information is stored on intel pads buried deep in a sub menu. It's like someone thought to give the game an RPG vibe, only to chicken out at the last minute. It's all very odd. And, of course, the game arrives with the dreaded roadmap of post-release content, aka stuff that probably should be in there at release, but is now being gifted as free DLC. The only roadmap I'm interested in is the actual map of roads included in the game on day 1, and to make sure they are suitably filled with things to do on day 1. To be honest, I'd say I'm more baffled than annoyed by the way Rage 2 works as a larger world. I think the strength of the combat does a lot of heavy lifting, but it will speak to players of a certain kind. Come to this expecting a post-apocalyptic Far Cry or a slightly more arcadey Fallout, and you'll find the world ever so barren. Come to it ready for an id shooter with slightly too much empty soil between the bloodbaths, and it'll lightly click. I hope this video has helped you navigate the wasteland of Rage 2. If you have any questions about the game or what I've said in the review, I'd be happy to answer them. If you found this enjoyable, please do let me know in the comments, and do click on that little thumbs up to help us fight the evil YouTube algorithm. I'd obviously love it if you'd subscribe to Rock Paper Shotgun for more videos like this. Not exactly like this, mind. It would be pretty weird if I just reviewed Rage 2 for the rest of time. Thanks for watching, and I'll hopefully see you soon.